Radio Show with your host, Lonnie Clark. We stand together and accept that we now live in a world transformed by Fukushima. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here on UCY.TV Radio. We relentlessly engage every ear that listens. We expose and confront the complete lack of accountability for the nuclear industry. Consider social engineering programs who view our bodies, minds, and souls as assets on a balance sheet. We discuss vital current issues, interview activists, and engage our audience in an effort to allow all voices to be heard. The Age of Fission radio show creates a venue that all will choose. We encourage our listeners to reclaim their power and their courage to take action and save our planet from the ravages of greed and indifference. Our actions matter. Every voice matters. We remind our listeners that happiness is resistance. Love is greater than fear.
Good morning, UCY.TV radio listeners. This is Lonnie Clark with the Age of Fission radio show. Today is October 12th, 2016. It's Wednesday, and that means we're interviewing activists and people out in our communities who make an effort to make a difference. And I have with us today Sean from the SGT Report. He's been with us before, and I've been really looking forward to speaking with him in our current Dog and Pony show. Good morning, Sean, for joining us.
Good morning, Lonnie. How are you doing?
Well, to be frank, I'm a little bit tired. Like, I'm going to school and it's tax time, so put those two together in the fall, it usually means there's not enough time in the day. So, yeah. But I'm good. I feel really excited to speak with you. I have to say, I'm a little bit. I have been fighting off feeling really depressed about what's going on. Like, when I say happiness is resistance, man, I really actually utilize that because I refuse to let them get to us. No. So, how have you been? How's the world? How are things in your neck of the woods, especially in this climate of the political circus that we've been living in?
Yeah, you know what? I'm with you on the depression thing. You get the change of seasons going on, and that's a little bit of a curveball because it starts getting dark so much earlier. And part of that's nice, but I'll tell you what, I live in the Midwest, and it's another cloudy, overcast day, and I'll tell you, you feel much happier when you get that California, 78, 82 degree weather, not a cloud in the sky, just beautiful. And we don't get many of those where I am. I mean, it's not as bad as maybe Seattle, but I tell you, I think collectively Americans are probably suffering from a collective depression because regardless of which side of the aisle you're on in this election, or if you're smart enough to be independent and haven't broken your political paradigm, the false right-left paradigm, you're still depressed because I don't know about you, Lonnie, and again, I'm no Trump fan. I haven't been to any of his rallies. I guess I shouldn't say I'm no Trump fan. What I can say is that I am a ardent anti-fan of Hillary Clinton. I mean, the woman's so hardcore criminal. And, I don't know. I'm sick and tired of the mainstream Mockingbird media shoving her down our throats like she's the chosen one. But then, of course, I remember she is the chosen one. They are going to insert her into the Oval Office despite her crimes, because of her crimes, because she can be trusted. She's a made mafia.
That's right, because of her crimes. That's right. It's interesting because I definitely am not a Trump fan. I think he's a misogynistic pig, to be frank. I would not have ever voted for him. And I am very anti-Clinton myself, which is why I was a Bernie supporter. Because really, I think you and I talked about this before. Trump represents represented the voters on the other side of the aisle that hated Clinton, that really hated the establishment. Bernie represented the end. And what they have shown is that they are not letting anybody near the White House that's going to speak for the people. Period. End of story. And that is what gets to me, because that's fascism. When I hear on television or on the radio, and I mean, like all day long, I go to school. I've just started the University of Oregon, and right in front of my class, one of my classes is the kiosk to get students to vote. Mm-hmm. Now, it's so offensive, like as if our vote matters. I mean, that's what this election has shown us right now, that our vote really, and it's hard to figure out how we're going to wrestle that back from the powers that be. People say vote local because voting local is where the matters matter. Mm-hmm. I agree with that to a certain extent, but at a certain point, we are a warring nation. We are war profiteers. I mean, I think that's why they don't take away the guns, so that they can conduct war profiteering here on our own land. Mm-hmm. I mean, if they really thought it was expedient to take away the guns, they would. I mean, honestly, they've taken away everything else. I was thinking about that before we got on the line, was how the Unpatriot Act has really undermined our democracy at such a deep level. Imagine, Sean, can you imagine us 15 years ago saying, yeah, it's okay if we know that the government spies on us, looks at us on our cell phones, can look at us through our television, has the right to come in and sneak and peek in your house, not tell you that you've ever been there, hold you with days without detention, mm-hmm. pin you up at political conventions. Like when you're at a political convention, you can't go to the convention and protest. They pin you in, literally pin you in like caged rats.
Yeah. Well, you know what? As far as guns go, what they're going to do if Hillary gets into office is they're going to continue with these backdoor ammo bans. They're going to continue tightening all sorts of rules and laws relating to guns and gun ownership. And ultimately, a ban is what they want to do. They want to do an Australian-style total ban. And she's on tape saying that the founders have it wrong, the Supreme Court has it wrong on the Second Amendment, and she is a hardcore Marxist. But you mentioned fascism, and I just want to circle back to that because that's exactly what this is. It's the corporatocracy, the oligarchy. It is the big international criminal banks, right? Our central bank being the Federal Reserve, founded by the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and the Morgans and a bunch of other, elitist families. That run the whole show. And people need to remember that. And in fact, I'm going to play a soundbite for you in a second that absolutely proves that Hillary Clinton is the central banker's choice for president. Now, you have to remember, when you say fascism, people have to understand that Mussolini's definition of fascism was a revolving door between corporations and government, the two entities working together for their own means. And that's exactly what we have now. And I think the single best example of the fascist dictatorship that we're suffering through is the fact that George H.W. Bush, the former director of the CIA, recently announced that he will be voting for Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
If this paradigm was real, and if there was a real difference between Republicans and Democrats, he would not be doing that. So why is he saying that? Well, first of all, people need to remember that the Bushes created the Clintons, all that Mena, Arkansas CIA drug running, okay? And the litany of her crimes. Anonymous is out just today with a new video called Hillary Clinton, Career Criminal. And it covers her litany of crimes, a well-researched list.
You know, the sad part about that, Sean, is that does not matter to the Democrats. Like, to the people that are going to be vote. Like, my own daughter is gay, and she begged me to vote for Clinton. She's like, Mom, you realize if we let Trump in, he's going to take away all. I said, this is the really astounding people that people forget about. We do. Although, in this regard, she's right, because the Democrats are Republicrats. They're one party. Mm-hmm. They would spank America so hard and take away just like they did with George Bush. They did not fight. They did not stand up to him stealing the election in 2000. The Democrats had control. They could have done something and saved our nation. Instead, they vindictively spanked us hard for not astoundingly voting for their candidate. So they voted for whatever George Bush wanted, including the Unpatriot Act, the NDAA, the Iraq War. The litany of crimes goes on. Really, the crimes were going on before then. They just came out of the closet then.
Right.
This has been the ironic part. And, America we don't have to say we're headed for World War III or we're going to we are suffering. Our children are dying. Our schools are falling apart. Our bridges are falling apart. We really don't have when Trump says, the appeal from Trump is that let's make America great, is because people see the destruction all around them.
Yeah. Let me ask you this as it relates to your daughter and the Great Awakening that's happening. Because there is a Great Awakening that's happening, Lonnie, and I like to tell people about my experience with the Ron Paul revolution a few years back and how blatantly the GOP stole what was rightfully his. He had more grassroots support.
Yes, and you know what?
And they stole it. And this year, the same thing was done to Bernie Sanders. I'm no fan of
Identically, they copied him.
Yeah. So the DNC is corrupt. The GOP is corrupt. I think the GOP is shocked that Trump is where he's at. Obviously, they wanted to give us somebody like Jeb Bush.
Yes.
That was the dream election for the elite. Jeb Bush versus Hillary Clinton, two ruling oligarchical families that go back decades, with ties to the CIA, with ties, frankly, to the assassination of John F. Kennedy, and as far as the Bushes go. And that's the election they wanted to give us, which is no choice. I mean, it's a shit sandwich of a choice. You have a choice to eat it if you'd like, but here's your sandwich. Instead, they stole, really, I think, what was rightfully Bernie's, and WikiLeaks has vetted that out to be true. And so where are all the Democrats outraged? A lot of them are. That's the good news, Lonnie, is a lot of Democrats are so pissed off by what happened to Bernie that they hate Hillary. Susan Sarandon is a great example of this. She's a hardcore liberal, and she despises Hillary, someone she used to count as a friend, because she saw what they did to Bernie. So she's a hardcore criminal, and I just want to play this soundbite for you before I forget, because I think it's so important. Now, you've heard me talk about the Rothschild family before, right? You know who they are, correct?
Yes, oh yes, we do.
Okay. They're very, very private. They're also said to be the world's wealthiest family. I'm not sure if they are the world's wealthiest family, but I know they've got a lot more money than Buffett or Bill Gates, because that's single lifetime wealth. These international banking families like the Rothschilds have multi-generational banking wealth. They own central banks around the world, including our Federal Reserve. So they're very, very private. They rarely speak out publicly on things like this, like our elections. But now recently, Lynn Forrester de Rothschild has held several $100,000 per head fundraisers for her puppet, for the Rothschild puppet, Hillary Clinton. They count each other as friends. And in fact, I was speaking with author James Perloff recently in an interview, and he reminded me, as I was explaining to him that, Hillary was Rothschild's choice, and he agreed, he reminded me that when the Clintons were in the White House, the Rothschilds, Evelyn and Linda Forrester, who, they were both previously married, got married and spent their honeymoon in the White House on invitation by Bill and Hillary. All right, so that's where we stand. This multi-generational wealthy banking family is now coming out publicly for their puppet Hillary. I'm going to play this soundbite. This is Lynn Forrester de Rothschild, by all accounts, one of the wealthiest women on the planet.
Let's talk about the upcoming election. You're an adamant Hillary supporter and a friend of hers as well.
Better.
Why is she better for business?
I speak about this in my private capacity, right? Because the coalition is nonpartisan. Okay. So I personally believe that she's better because she's lived her life trying to figure out how to make life better for people who are struggling. And also she understands how the successful can help the struggling. And she's not a character of division. She's a character of unity. She's shown it politically when she went to the Senate and she worked with Lindsey Graham.
I'll pause it there. Okay, just a couple of things, and then you can weigh in. First of all, she's someone who helps the struggling, like who? The Haitian people from which billions of dollars were stolen, the billions of dollars donated to the Clinton Foundation to help those poor people after that massive earthquake. It's missing. Charles Ortel has said there are billions of dollars missing. The mainstream media ignores it. The crimes of the Clinton Foundation alone should land her and her husband in prison. And so Rothschild says, and she's better for business? Lonnie, whose business do you think she's talking about? I can tell you this, it's not your business or my little business. It's not the business of our listeners. It's the business of international criminal banks, central banks. That's who Hillary is good for, and the Rothschilds just love her. She's going to be president because they want her to be.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. What really does blow me away, Sean, is that Haiti is in such a despicable mess right now. Like, there is cholera, there is famine. And did we see the Clinton Foundation going down there with all the billions that they took? And it has been out in the news for quite a long while that the billions that were contributed to Haiti never made it to Haiti.
Less than 2%.
Have they? No one's even discussed. This is what's really blown me away in none of the mainstream media. The reason Haiti's in this position is because the Clintons and the Bushes went down there and basically raped the people of contributions and took away and did not give. And they're not even volunteering to help them right now as we speak. It's just astounding.
Yeah, well, let me tell you this. I find this extremely disturbing. Now, these poor people of Haiti, of course, just got whacked by Hurricane Matthew, too. So to compound their issues, the misery that these people, have to live and deal with is just, it's insane. It's third world. And, billions of dollars were donated globally to the Haitian people. And it's because people at that time trusted the Bushes and the Clintons and the Clinton Foundation. So donate all this money. And Charles Hortel has said that less than 2% of that money ever made it to Haiti, and less than 5% of all monies ever donated to the Clinton Foundation have ever gone to anybody other than the Clintons. So it is literally a mafia operation, a money laundering operation, a theft operation, and the mainstream Mockingbird media won't talk about it. It's absolutely disturbing. And so let me play this for you. I'm going to just set up my viewer here so I can see what I'm playing. That helps me cue it up correctly. You can jump in here while I set this up. But I'm going to play a soundbite for you here from the former president of the Senate of Haiti. I'm not sure if you've heard this.
Okay.
Here it comes. This is extremely powerful.
Well, this is not unknown. We know. I mean, this is the hard part, Sean. This is what shocks me. We have all this evidence, and yet still people. This is what I call the Fear Trump campaign. That's what this has been all about. It's all about fear Trump, fear Trump, fear Trump. And we've talked about this. I personally believe he's working for his $1 billion bonus. If every 10% she wins, I think he's going to get a bonus. That's what I think.
From who?
From the Clintons, from the Clinton Foundation. I think he is being paid by the Clintons and by the DNC to undermine. And mission accomplished. Hasn't he really ripped the Republican Party apart?
Well, the mainstream media narrative would suggest that he's ripping the Republican Party apart. But what do we have? I'm not part of the Republican Party. I hate the Republican Party, but I recognize that when Ron Paul was running, he needed that platform. Because if you're an independent, you're toast. You can't run as
like Bernie Sanders.
You won't even be allowed into the debates. So they have to use these mechanisms, as corrupt as they are. And I think in the case of Trump, look, in this last debate, if people are understanding what I'm saying, if the people, right, formerly referred to as the deep state, I talked about this too recently with some guests. The deep state is no longer that deep because previously these names, these families, the Bushes, the Clintons, the CIA, the NSA, this hornet's nest of bankers, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Morgans, the central bankers, they're all in the open now. So this is the deep state. And so in this last debate on Sunday night, Trump, risking everything, right, unless he's in on it somehow, and it would be the most elaborate scheme ever concocted, even more elaborate than 9/11.
I don't think it's that elaborate.
Well, listen, though, he actually got up and spoke truth to that witch on a global stage, and he spoke truth about Bill Clinton and Clinton's rapes on a global stage. Do you know how much courage it would take to say the things he said to her on a global stage when she's the representative of these people I've described? You have to understand the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, these central bankers have taken this nation to war after war after war. The gallons of blood that have been spilled would fill an ocean. And it's all in the service of these international bankers so they can indebt nations to unrepayable debt. And he stood up to her on a global stage. Can you imagine what a marked man that makes him? Can you imagine what risk that puts his family at? I mean, just look at the Clinton body count.
See, this is where I disagree with you. I don't think he's a marked man at all. I think he's doing exactly as he is expected to do. He's villainizing himself. He is speaking the truth and saying it in a way that people will hear but dismiss. I mean, mission accomplished. It's like me. When Bush said mission accomplished, he did not have 1 ounce of meaning towards the Iraq War. I've always believed he meant mission accomplished, like fascism is fully in place. He had all of the Supreme Courts taken care of. He had all of the district courts taken care of. The Republicans came in. I mean, mission accomplished. Just slam the door on getting anything done in America. We're now a war profiteering state.
Well, that we've been a war profiteering state, right? And so let me just say one thing as it pertains to Trump. So, as I said earlier, do you think that had they orchestrated the way they wanted this to be orchestrated, that we wouldn't have got like Jeb Bush or one of these other minions?
They tried.
Right.
Let's be clear, they tried, and nobody liked none of them. They threw them all out.
People are waking up and people are fed up. And so what has Trump been saying? He's been saying no more international treaties that undermine America and our economy.
But you believe that he would do that. See, I don't believe for a second. I think he would back down on all. Just like as he began to gain in popularity, he's starting to talk about we can rethink what we're going to do. He doesn't have. He talks about generalities. I mean, he's not
generalities
specific.
More than Hillary Clinton, though. Hillary Clinton says nonsense like, America is already great, and I resent anybody who would say otherwise. So all this talk about making America great.
And I'm not for the TPP.
Right. And she is for the TPP because we know who she reports to. She reports to the international bankers. The WikiLeaks documents, the Podesta emails, have already shown her to be a duplicitous liar as it relates to the TPP, as it relates to her speeches to Goldman Sachs, for which she was paid millions of dollars. The word for that is bribery, by the way. And she's told these people in private that there are private things that she can say in private, and then there are things that she can say in public. And privately, she tells them that she's for the bankers. So she's obviously for TPP. But let me just say one thing, and then I'm going to play you the soundbite. Billy Bush is the one that was involved in this conversation with Trump, right? I'm not saying that this was orchestrated 12 years ago to, bring him down. What I'm saying is, do you not find it ironic that this 12-year-old piece of video
surfaces now, yes. I actually think it surfaced now as a bit of vindictiveness from Poppy Bush for insulting Jebby's wife.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And do you understand who Billy Bush is?
Oh, yeah, he's connected to the Bush crime family.
His uncle is George H.W. Bush, former director of the CIA and former president, and his cousin is George Bush, former president of the United States, who helped cover up what happened.
And he probably hated his job at NBC, so this was like a double win for him.
And again, though, you have to remember, when you are called upon by these people, call it the Illuminati, the New World Order, when you are a made member of this organization, and I'm not suggesting Billy Bush is even a bad guy. I mean, I think he's quite likable as an entertainment correspondent. I don't think he ever wanted anything to do with any of this stuff. But when he was called upon to fall on his sword and do what he had to do to cause injury to Trump, he did. Like, can't you almost imagine some sort of emergency family meeting where they're like, all right, who's got the goods? We got to come up with the goods on this guy, and they've got the intelligence agencies working on this. And Billy Bush says, well, I recall having a conversation with him about a decade ago where he was just talking about this gal he wanted to bang. And I think he was mic'd up at the time because we were going to go on stage.
You know what, Sean? I agree with you completely, but this is where I take it. I think it's even deeper than that.
As a guy who's worked in television, you got to remember how absolutely insidious this is, right? They mic him up with a wireless mic, Trump, right? Because he's going to go on stage in 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever. When they do your makeup and you're mic'd up, you forget you have that wireless mic on. And so when you're having a private conversation with somebody and it's recorded and it comes back to haunt you 12 years later, I'm not defending anything he said. I really don't care about it's not. This is not me promoting Trump. This is me trying to describe how insanely criminal our system is and the ends that they're willing to go to prevent anybody that could rock the boat. And so let me play this for you just to demonstrate how criminal the Clinton Foundation is. This is the former president of Haiti, of the Haitian Senate, okay? And he showed up at a Trump rally, and he begged Trump to do this.
In 2010, the earthquake of Haiti, not only American taxpayers, but the whole world has given billions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation for the Haitians. Not even 2% of that money went back to Haiti. So, Mr. Trump, we are asking you, begging you, The Haitian community will side with you if one day you ask Hillary Clinton publicly to disclose the audit of all the money they have stolen from Haiti in 2010 after the earthquake.
It goes on. I could keep playing it for you, but you get the gist. So, billions of dollars missing, and who's going to hold these people accountable when the FBI won't even indict her for her crimes?
Well, not only that, the IRS, check this out, they found discrepancies in the foundation, so now they're amending it. Oops, they forgot to report several $100 million. They forgot, and they blamed it on their daughter, said, oh, she was the one managing it, and that's how it happened. For real. This is how deep the state is here, though. This is the point, and this is what really how we started the show off. I say happiness is resistance, and I really honestly refuse to get down about it, because you know what? They want us to feel dejected. It's like I told my daughter, they want us to vote for Clinton. You think they're not setting us all up? This is why to me, the pattern of Trump's candidacy, every time he had a chance to win over Democrats, he shoots himself in the face. Every chance. He was not concerned about crossing over to Democrats, ever, still is not. He makes the most incendiary comments. Look what happened in 9/11. I was actually upset on 9/11. I called the Democratic Party. I'm like, what kind of monsters are you? This woman is obviously sick, and you're parading her out there to propagate the propaganda and to defend Wall Street. This is who you are. Nobody is out there concerned about her health a month and a half, 2 months before the election. I mean, I don't like Hillary Clinton, but I find it really macabre that we have a presidential candidate that has been selected, and she will not be elected. I mean, look, this is the thing. If Trump gets all the votes in the country, the Democratic Party already has the capacity, just like the Republicans, to flip the machines 20 to 30%. That was what Greg Palast's work has shown. Greg Palast, an investigative reporter from the BBC. It used to be they could flip the switches 2 to 3% and change close elections. They've gotten really good at it. They can go up to 25 to 30% now. Most Americans don't realize that we really do not have a democracy. We might at a local level, but at the big grand scale of it all, they're getting in who they want, period, and we don't matter.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I think our votes matter. I mean, you said that earlier, our votes don't matter, and you're right about that. Our votes don't matter, but they would matter if they would be counted, and that's the problem. Those who count the votes rule the world, and we're not going to have an honest election. We don't even have honest polls. We know that these stupid polls that CNN puts out, like after the Trump video was leaked, they spent 2 days talking about how Hillary has opened up a commanding 11-point lead. And then you look at the poll, and you realize that the poll's rigged. They only polled 500 people, and the majority of those people were Democrats. I mean, it's completely rigged. And by the way, the poll was done by a Democrat. So it's absolute bogus propaganda brainwashing. I mean, anybody who watches the CNN at this point really needs to look at the little ticker down there where it says CNN and just replace that middle N with an I. It's CIA propaganda. It's government propaganda. And it's just so deeply disturbing because we can bridge into the conversation now. We should segue over to what's happening internationally. Because if anything we've talked about now doesn't move people to try to prevent Hillary Clinton from getting into the presidency, if your issue is gay marriage or pro-choice or whatever your issue is, that you just think you'd move heaven and earth to make sure she gets in to protect your one or two issues, you need to see the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is this woman who represents this deep state and these neocon warmongering monsters is hell-bent on taking this nation to war with Russia over Syria.
Let me tell you what, I believe 100% that Trump will take us to war. Trump will click his heels and say Sig Heil. He will not stand up to the... This is the choice you get when you go into the White House. This is what this election has exposed. You have a choice. You want to be rich or you want to be dead.
I'll tell you exactly where you're wrong. She will not... First of all, she and the mainstream Mockingbird media continue to demonize Putin all along every single day. They continue to, with absolutely no foundation of fact whatsoever, try to conflate this idea that it's Russian hackers that are behind Anonymous and WikiLeaks. It's Russian hackers that targeted the DNC. That is such bullshit.
It's Russians who are bombing the hospitals in Syria and Aleppo and Yemen.
When it was actually this
Russians.
Everything's blamed on Russia and Putin. And I'm going to tell you where he stands in stark contrast to that witch. She wants more of what's happening now. Cut diplomatic ties with Putin. Start shooting down Russian airplanes. They will take us to war over Syria because this U.S. hegemony is falling apart at the seams, right? And he, a lot like Kennedy back during the Cuban Missile Crisis, wants a dialogue with Putin. He doesn't think it's smart to cut diplomatic ties. He doesn't think So where do we stand? We stand with somebody that I know, Hillary Clinton, will get us into a bloody hot war with Russia, which potentially could become World War III. By the way, the Russian government just told officials to immediately bring back children studying abroad. This was news that broke yesterday.
Yes, I
the
saw
Russians are preparing 40 million of their citizens for a nuclear war with this country. And meanwhile, this government isn't preparing anybody. There's no shelters. There's no backup plan for
Sean, their government is preparing for war because they see that the United States is going to start a war, not because they want to create one with us. It's a defensive mode to have their people practicing.
I agree with you. And here's what's going on in Syria. You've got this Syria situation heating up because the whole world, and Putin has provided the documentation essentially to prove this as being true. Everyone knows that it's this government backing and supporting ISIS and getting arms and weapons to ISIS to try to topple Assad. Russia's in there saying, you can't destroy another Middle Eastern country. We saw what you did to, Iraq. We saw what you did to Libya. We know what you want to do to Iran. You're not going to do it to Syria. And look at Aleppo. They've already done it. They've destroyed that nation. This country's destroyed that nation in the name of...
They just approved $90 billion to Israel. That's outrageous.
Yeah.
This is not in a vacuum, but this is my feeling. See, either way, we're super screwed. Either one of them, if Trump by some red herring got in, we are super screwed. So the thing is, the economy is going to collapse. This is all sort of planned events here. And frankly, even when Clinton gets in, she's so sick, I wonder how long she would actually be alive for. How long will they let her live, and who are they going to insert? This is the thing where we really, as Americans, have got to stand up to the constant. We have to push our elected officials to not be such cowards. They're all such cowards. I was up yesterday morning at 6:30 in the morning calling a bunch of Democrats who are on television telling us that Hillary Clinton represents the reasonable side of the world and it's the Russians' fault. And I'm like, who are you people? They all say on television, well, I haven't had a chance to read the WikiLeaks. I'm like, really? But you're on television talking about it. Mm-hmm. It is the laziness and the fear-mongering that goes on all around. We have got to get a grip of ourselves in America because guess what? World War III is not about to start. I really believe it started, and the victims are us. They are pointing there. When I got engaged in this because of Fukushima. I wanted people to understand, but I've come to understand that we have our own Fukushimas going on here. The war is on against us. This is why they honestly, we are discarded people according to the Rothschilds. We are what did Hillary Clinton call us all? Not just the deplorables. She called Bernie Sanders the backyard losers or something.
Basement dwellers.
Yeah, really? These are the people. If our country is this magnificent, how is it that these are the two people that are running for president?
Yeah, well, first of all, and I said I didn't need to say this again. I say it all the time. I love my country, right? I love where I was born. I love the nation. I love what we used to represent.
I love our Constitution. I want our Constitution back.
My problem is with this government and the deep state. So what do we have, right? Constantly demonized as bad guys are people like Julian Assange and Edward Snowden and anybody that wants to reveal the corruption of the U.S. government. And standing as the good guys, trumpeted out all the time on CNN and MSNBC and Fox News, the good guys are the Clintons and the Cheneys.
Well, Fox does not
the Bushes.
Let's be clear. the Fox is hilariously funny. I love to watch Fox now because they're having to admit that Clinton's going to be is selected. Like everybody sees it. This is, this really is a banana state when the people. I mean, this was kind of scary for me though as an American, listening to Trump say you should be in jail and talking to her like that. That's what third world dictators say to their opponents in there. I mean, the way he said it was really like, if you have, and in fact, I am studying third world dictators right now. I'm studying Latin American studies. That was very frightening, the way he said that. You'd be arrested. I mean, honestly, there is so much more to arrest her over, but the way he did it was chilling for me as an American. This is where we've stooped as Americans. We really have two puppets at the top, right hand, left hand, all being pulled by the same string. I don't for a second believe that Trump is independent at all.
That's fine, Lonnie, but I mean the bottom line is that we know who Clinton is.
Yes.
She's a hardcore guy.
We know who they both are.
So
they're both horrible.
For him to have the courage to get up and say what every thinking American wants to say to her, that you're a criminal and you should be in prison, takes a lot of guts. Like, for him to say that, I don't know why that you'd have a problem with that, because that's what she needs to hear. And that's my point, is that he's made himself a marked man to say those things to her. Do you think that Ted Cruz would ever say that to her in a debate? Do you think that Jeb Bush? They wouldn't have talked about any of these issues. They would avoid WikiLeaks. They would avoid her private server. They would avoid her perjury to Congress. They would avoid the Clinton Foundation. None of it would ever come up. And the only person that would ever bring it up on the world stage in a debate is him. Because he's a little off. He's a little unhinged to the degree that he's willing to say these things. Because I think it's very dangerous for him to say these things. I mean, it's got to wake people up, right? The FBI won't act. Comey comes out and contradicts himself and says we couldn't find evidence of intent. Meanwhile, there's evidence of intent everywhere you look, including her private her IT guy.
Comey has a long history of protecting the Clintons. That's, that's the reality. He has a long history of protecting the Clintons. And I did not verify this because I didn't look at the Clinton Foundation, but I read an article that said he was actually on the board of the Clinton Foundation. So I have not followed that up. I haven't had a chance. But this is how deep, when we talk about the deep state, this is what it means. And, I mean, I think the fact that you and I are talking about it and we're in different parts of the country and we basically feel the same disgust, is an indication this is what makes them afraid. This is why they are digging out. That's why they want to drag. Because, war brings people together. That's why they're going to want to start this big war.
Right.
So that we can have some type of a unity that we have to all get behind each other. But what was not, the Russians are talking about reopening their base on Cuba. They had an emergency. They shut off their nuclear talks because the United States is doing nothing but sabotage them. And really, it's almost like, when World War II, when everybody was lining up together to go against Germany, that's how it's going to end up because the United States really is in the position of Germany.
Well, you have to imagine, too, if you're Putin and you're being surrounded by NATO and you're being surrounded by nuclear weapons, actually, you're being told that they're defense systems that are being put in, right? That, of course, he makes the point that these systems could be offensive systems just as easily as defensive systems, and you're asking me to take the leap of faith to believe you. He's alarmed by the fact that this country continues to break nuclear arms treaties and change the rules and build weapons systems in Europe with NATO allies. This nation, ruled by the bankers, ruled by these same international bankers that have taken us to war after war after war, is surrounding Putin, and Putin is very alarmed. And so that's what's going on in Syria is a sideshow compared to what's going on in the Ukraine in the way this government and NATO is surrounding Putin with what essentially could be first strike nuclear weapons. Now, you mentioned a banana republic recently, just before, and I want to read this to you. I've read it before, but a banana republic is a political science term for politically unstable countries in Latin America whose economies are largely dependent on exporting a limited resource product. Wikipedia says bananas. I would advise our listeners to think of dollars and weapons of war. It typically has stratified social classes, including a large, impoverished working class. Look at the inner cities, folks. Look how the middle class is dying. And a ruling plutocracy of business, Think big pharma. Think big military-industrial complex. Political and military elites. This political economic oligarchy controls the primary sector production, dollars and weapons of war, to exploit the country's economy. We are a banana republic. We do not have rule of law any longer. The FBI will not indict her and put her in jail for her crimes. This is a banana republic, and people need to understand, if you think I'm nuts, take a look at the fact that the Pentagon, the comptroller of the Pentagon has recently said they can't account for $6.2 billion. Lonnie, $6.2 trillion is missing from the Pentagon. Sorry, we lost it. We lost our wallet. We can't find it.
And for what year is that? Just this last year?
That goes all the way back. Now, you recall the day before 9/11, Donald Rumsfeld got up and said publicly on September 10th, 2001, the Pentagon can't account for $2.1 or $2.3 trillion of transactions. They're now saying it's $6.2 trillion. And I tell you what, the looting of this country is epic, and typically the elites will loot a country right before the country's going to fall. That's what they do. So we're being looted from within. The enemy is not only at the gates, the enemy is within the gates. Their enemy is in Washington, D.C., and the enemy wants to take us to war with Putin. I don't know how this ends well for the people of this country, and I don't think either candidate can save us.
I can wholeheartedly agree. I think it really is time for us to be conscientious and really do prepare for what we think would be the worst. I mean, if this doesn't tell you George W. Bush officials endorsed Hillary Clinton in an open letter, 13 former officials came out against Donald Trump. Yeah. That will tell you how much she is on. I mean, it is really a despicable state of affairs, but we haven't seen anything yet. This is kind of like the calm before the storm right now, folks. That's how I feel. Like, that we have not seen it hit. I've actually urged my daughters to make sure they get their passports. Everybody must have their passports because, when Germany really started becoming an openly military police state, throwing people in jail and people were trying to escape, the people with their early passports got out. And I mean, who knows where we're going to go or what we're going to do, but it's kind of a sad state of affairs. I mean, look what's going on with that pipeline. There's kids down there, there's people down there, thousands of people, and nobody is even talking about it. There's huge thousands of people, being arrested, standing up against the pipeline, trying to save the environment. The Native Americans who have been suffering mercilessly with all the abandoned uranium mines are out there making a stand for what they call our water, when frankly I think our water is pretty much toast anyways. I mean, this is one of the things that I've discovered, like however this election ends and how it's going to go, it has nothing to do with our economy. It has everything to do with war profiteering. And that's going to be the focus of their entire push. And if I had any young children, there is no way I would want them to be in our military service. Never.
Right. Well, you know what? I think the bottom line is that, the military has been used. I mean, it was Kissinger described military men as stupid, dumb animals to be used, for our own ends. They don't respect the military, and this deep state that is in control, represented and helmed by Hillary Clinton here, if she becomes president. And it's not even helmed by her. She takes her marching orders from the Rothschilds, guys. I mean, there's emails, WikiLeaks emails, asking Linda Foster Rothschild how Hillary could do penance. One of Hillary's emails. How can I do penance for some mistake or oversight she made? How can I do penance? I mean, I just, the system is so far gone and so corrupt, Lonnie, and I think that the fact that we might be facing a all-out hot war with Russia really, really makes me personally feel like I need to sell my house and get my family offshore. I mean, I just spoke with Doug Casey, who's a very, very brilliant multimillionaire and investor, and he's ready to get out. I mean, he has property in Argentina. So he lives in Aspen, but he's got one foot out the door. Any time, I mean, he's homes all over the world. So the rich guys have a backup plan.
Right.
The rest of us are stuck here. When this deep state takes us to a hot war and the nukes start flying, good luck.
That's right. I mean, even if you can't get out, what are you going to do? And you're going to uproot your kids. I mean, this is the thing, and this is kind of my feeling, Sean. I don't want to give, I mean, as Americans, I feel united. Like, I feel connected to the people of this nation. You're on the other side of the continent. we barely know each other, but as Americans, we have common values, which is freedom of speech, freedom of thought, freedom of religion. We have the right to disagree with each other. We have the right to due process. All of these things are being meted out and taken away. And yet, out of the ashes, maybe the good news will be that this will be so despicable that out of the ashes that we'll have a renaissance in our country and we'll get back to having our Constitution. Because I still do regularly call my elected officials and talk to them about the Unpatriot Act. I mean, the Unpatriot Act really, to me, is the icing on the cake for them slamming down fascism in our country. I mean, Obama has, prosecuted more whistleblowers than all the presidents combined.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what a stab in the back.
Yeah.
He has deported, ironically, they call him, the Hispanic community calls him the deporter-in-chief.
Mm-hmm.
Do you realize that? Like, he has deported more people. The deportation, I mean, people are not coming into this country at the rates. It's kind of flatlined. They are not coming in at the rates that they used to because of the high levels of deportation and the terrible way that the justice system, I mean, if you get caught if you're an undocumented person, you get caught by ICE, you could spend months in jail in an ICE prison and mistreated horribly by turns out that the people that are running the ICE prisons, they just had their contract revoked because they were imprisoning children.
Yeah, listen to this, though. You won't be arrested by ICE if you're a refugee coming from one of these Middle Eastern countries, supposedly Syria, but we know they're coming from all over the place. Have you seen the video? I'd advise the audience to go to YouTube and type in Paris goes to hell, or Paris Streets a hellhole. I forget what it's called, but it's something like that. Paris is hell on earth, Paris. The streets of Paris are now lined with these refugees that have been brought in. And who's behind this movement to bring in the refugees? George Soros has funded it. He's promoted it. Merkel, all these politicians have been bought off or paid. They're all in the pocket of these oligarchs. Bring in these refugees and destroy these nations from within. And what has Hillary said? If she becomes president?
She wants more, man. More.
A million of these.
Bring them in.
And we don't know who they are. That's all Trump's been saying. He gets pinned as being this, hateful, anti, he's a racist and all that. So he's just saying, look, we're supposedly in this war on terror against these people, right? And now you're going to bring in 1 million of them, and we don't know who they are? That doesn't make any sense. And he's right, it doesn't make any sense. But Soros and Rothschild...
We're still giving money to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is dropping our bombs on Yemen on a daily basis on hospitals. Our bombs. They are buying... This is the issue here. Our war profiteering is undermining all of the world economies, and they are doing it intentionally. Anyone who does not like the bankers that are funding the United States, that really are behind the deep state... that's why they went after Syria, because they wouldn't go with the World Bank, right? It's the same reason that they're going after Cuba. I mean, it's interestingly enough, I've been wondering what their plan is for Cuba, but this is my thing. I think what we really need to do is have some forethought about this, really do prepare, take this seriously, because it's out in the open. It's not, in Germany, people could say, well, we didn't know. Well, now we do know, folks. We can look back at history. We can see the same bankers. We can see the Rothschilds were the same people that brought us Hitler. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's why it's easy to call her Hitlery, to be honest. That's kind of almost my name for her is Hitlery.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know. You know what? Give me 90 seconds to play a soundbite for you. And I think this is important. I mentioned this woman's name earlier in the interview, but I'm proud of her, not knowing her, but I'm proud of her and her intellectual honesty for being friends with somebody like Hillary Clinton, and so publicly, again, demonstrating courage to speak truth about somebody who's so clearly evil. And this is Susan Sarandon, and I just want to play this clip for you here, okay? This is Susan Sarandon on the Colbert Report, saying Clinton is scarier than Trump.
She is, actually.
Actress Susan Sarandon says she's more afraid of Hillary Clinton than Donald Trump. The Academy Award winner explained on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert why she had to break up with Hillary, her former friend and political ally.
We have this photo, which I believe you actually provided for us. This is you and Hillary Clinton right there.
I know.
You seem very friendly. You seem very friendly and supportive.
Look how happy we were, and then
so
I had to break up with her.
Why did you? You're such a beautiful couple. Why did you break up?
Well, I told her, don't go in Iraq. I'm very upset about that.
So this is before 2003?
Absolutely. And I said, there's not enough evidence. And there's no exit strategy. Everything that everybody was saying. And she went in. So I was like, who is this person? I can't trust her. And then she became Secretary of State.
Yes.
I'm an environmentalist. Fracking is absolutely the worst thing you could do for the environment. Methane ruins the water. She goes behind my back and she's selling it all over the world.
So she doesn't. So she didn't check in with you. She didn't check in with you when she was Secretary of State.
And Monsanto. I don't want glyphosate in my cereal. She's selling Monsanto. I'm like,
sorry,
how can I?
What in your cereal?
Roundup.
Roundup.
So I'm like,
I'm Roundup ready. Actually, you can spray me down, and I'm perfectly fine.
I'm like, well, how can I trust her?
All right, I'll pause it there. But don't you find that inspiring? I like that because I've said for a long time, Lonnie, the problem in this nation is people are. They pick a team, and they stand on the team, and they can't be intellectually honest about their team. And the reason I woke up is because I knew Bush and Cheney were criminals, even though I previously had identified myself as a Republican. I knew, just like she's saying, why are we going into Iraq? They had nothing to do with 9/11.
Kind of like me, Sean. I was a Democrat my whole life until the Democratic Convention. I'm part of the Dem Exit. I mean, honestly, I would never again. I'm still, I told my daughter, I said, this is the thing when she was begging me to vote for Clinton. I said, look, let's be clear. She's going to steal the nomination. I don't have to give her my vote, and I'm not going to vote for a person that's a known criminal.
Yeah.
She's just, that's just, to me, that's the position that they put you in. They fearmonger you. I mean, my daughter doesn't like her at all either. A lot of people that are voting for her, it's kind of like the same people that are voting for Trump that aren't really warm to him, but they hate Clinton. It's the same thing. It's the Fear Trump campaign. So this campaign, this whole political fiasco that we've looked at has really just been a fear-mongering campaign. And ironically, I thought about this the other day because they call us fear-mongers for talking about Fukushima and the chemical pollutions that is all around this country. And yet the fear-mongering that's gone on, this country is just scared to death of its own shadow right now. And I think what it's done is it's made us fear-weary. We're like, we're done. We're so overcooked on that one. We want to get back to being able to talk to our neighbors who may decide that having a different political bent might be the solutions to our economic woes. Because really, when it gets down to it, it's how do we build a better America? How do we build our country better than what we've been? It's not with a Pentagon that loses trillions of dollars. That's the first step, in my view.
Yeah.
I mean, the money spigot has got to end the deep black hole. Our Congress and our elected officials have no courage to cut off the military.
No, I know. And you know what? Let me ask you this, though, as it pertains to your daughter. Is one of her big issues, is it the gay rights thing?
Yes.
Okay. Here's what I want people to understand, though. There is a war of religion. This goes all the way, we don't have to get into Israel and Zionism and all that, right? But there is a war, there's a long plotted and planned war to have the world's religions fight each other, Christianity and the Muslims, Islam. And here's what's happening in Europe because of all these refugees that Soros is bringing in and these criminals in their own countries are allowing to come in. Sharia law is being implemented. What we're finding in many of these European countries is the Muslims are running for office and getting in. What your daughter needs to understand, and what everybody who values any of the rights we have in this country need to understand, that these globalist powers, Hillary Clinton wants to bring in 1 million refugees. This isn't about helping the refugees. It's about bankrupting this nation and bringing us to our knees because we can't save everybody, Lonnie. If we opened up the borders, we'd have 1 billion people here. The whole system falls apart.
Let's just save ourselves. This is the thing about us acting as if we can save anybody. Our infrastructure is falling apart. Our children are the least educated.
But let me just finish that thought as it relates to your daughter because she needs to understand that once Sharia law is implemented in Europe, for instance, all of those people that cared about gay rights, they're out of luck because you're not going to have gay rights. You're not going to have gay.
You're not going to have Sharia law in Europe.
You're not going to have any of it if these Muslims get in. And I'm not even anti-Muslim. I'm just telling you what the plan is. The globalist plan is to destroy the West from within, pitting Christianity against Islam in these endless, unconstitutional wars. They call it a war of terror. They call it a war on terror. I call it a war of terror.
Yes, it is a war of terror. And it is run by the Pentagon. Let's be clear. A lot of the misrepresentation of Islam is run. I used to follow the Muslim religion. When I was younger, I went through this, I was raised Catholic. You know what that means. When you grow up, you're trying to figure out what religion you are. So I understand pretty well the Islamic tradition. And I basically came to the conclusion that they're three sides of the same coin. They're all the same thing. It's all just, when it gets down to it, no one can take away my relationship with God, period. And that is, you can't define it. And that's what our Constitution is about. We have the right to believe in our Creator the way we believe in it. But we do not have the right to impinge on other people's rights. And that part has been forgotten. I mean, we have a whole justice system that is injustice. If you're connected to the right people, you can do whatever you want. It's a free-for-all. But you're the wrong skin color, you're the wrong economic level, you made enemies with the wrong people. We have a lot of political prisoners in this country. Obama released 118 drug dealers. None of them soft criminals, all of them hard cocaine dealers. Did he release Leonard Pelletier, who's been sitting in prison for 40 years now? I mean, it is an outrage that we have. I mean, what this election to me has shown, Sean, is that what we have is a puppet government. And it is being run by people whose names we don't even know. I actually believe that the Rothschilds are the front guys for some other people that we don't even dig into, like the ultimate elite. And Americans need to wise up and stop, Trump. I mean, the whole Fear Trump campaign, it's like, what I told my daughter? Look, if by chance he got elected, we have had 8 years of lessons of obstructionism. We could withstand anything. He's not going to come in and take away your gay rights. He's not going to come. They can't without the consent of almost 500 people. Mm-hmm. So we have supposedly checks and balances, and therein lies the issue, is those checks and balances have been bought and paid for by the people who were buying the White House. As we have seen, this whole dog and pony show of Republicans, Democrats, there's one party called Republicrats. And Americans need to wise up and stop voting for either party. That's what I think. The only way we're going to undermine it is not put any of those people back in. Mm-hmm. Just let them hang out there like I'm not going to vote for them. I'm done. I mean, it's not that I'm not going to vote because it's the only choice. It's our only voice that we have. We do need to vote. Yeah, and I know we're wrapping up here, so I'll just say this. These people fear an uprising because an uprising is the only thing that can topple them aside from rule of law. They also fear rule of law. So say what you want about Trump, guys, but for him to get out and speak truth to a hardcore criminal like Hillary Clinton saying that she should be in jail for what she's done, that's just a fact. And there's nobody else in the political sphere that I can think of that would say that to her on the global stage. So hate him all you want, whatever, I don't care. But you know what? I don't hate Trump so much as I do his running mate. His running mate terrifies me. His office is the office that reported me, lied. They called up, they had me investigated by the Capitol Police when I called up and disagreed with his vote to not extend the unemployment rights. I got investigated. They called the Capitol Police and said I threatened to murder their staff. So that was the long arm of intimidation, and that's how that office would work. I am telling you, the Pence people frightened me to death. Trump, I think, could be a reasonable person. I mean, I don't care about his backyard, what do you call it, the backroom talk that got exposed. I mean, honestly, that is language that men use. That speaks to the tough guy's attitude that we have to fight in our country. Boys are trained to disrespect people, and that's another whole conversation. But I honestly, I couldn't vote for Trump, and I can't vote for Clinton, and it doesn't even matter who we vote for because we know that she's going to be elected. She's selected. She's the done deal. My question is, how long is she going to live? Because I don't think she's healthy. Yeah. So, yeah. Look, my question is, how are they going to steal it? I just don't know how they can steal it when he has. That's easy. People show up, and she has a rally, and 400 show up. Doesn't matter. You know what? It really doesn't matter. Greg Pallas said that they can change it 20 to 30% easy.
Yeah.
Easy. So they can steal it. So look, we've got 20 seconds left. You have been listening to the Age of Fission radio show with Lonnie Clark and Sean of the SGT Report. Please do check out his websites. Start at the SGT Report. It's really awesome. You'll find information you don't find elsewhere. Thank you for joining us. Put your courage feet on. Take heart, and remember, happiness is resistance. We'll talk to you guys later.